Book of Heaven, Volume 20, Part 20. February 3rd, 1927. How in the kingdom of the divine Fiat, one shall be the will. How one saying about the divine will can be a key, a door, a path. How the supreme will forms many breasts in all created things, from which to let its children suckle its knowledges. My always lovable Jesus, drawing me all to himself, told me, "My daughter, the kingdom of the divine Fiat shall have one single will as its center, the divine. Therefore one shall be the will of all, that diffusing to all and embracing everything shall give happiness, order, harmony, strength, and beauty to all. So it shall be the kingdom of one single will, one will for all, and all for one will." What renders the celestial fatherland happy, if not the will of God and will of all? Oh, if another will that were not that of God could enter into heaven, which cannot be, the saints would lose their perennial peace, and would feel the disorder of a will that is not divine, that does not contain all goods, and that is not holy, and bearer of happiness and of peace. And so, all unanimous, they would cast it out. Therefore, the kingdom of the Fiat shall have only my will, and it alone, as law, as regime, as dominion. And by virtue of it, all shall be happy, of one single happiness. There shall never be contentions, but perennial peace. After this, in feeling the great effort I was making in writing, and the hardship I experienced, I felt undecided whether I should continue writing or not. And my beloved Jesus, inciting me, told me, "My daughter, each additional word about my will can be one more key in order to open the kingdom of the supreme Fiat. Each knowledge about it can be a new door that is formed to give more ease, more entrances, to let the children of its kingdom enter. Each simile about my will is one more path that is formed in order to facilitate the communications of this kingdom. The littlest thing that regards my Fiat is a heartbeat of it, that it wants to form in the midst of the children of its kingdom. And to suffocate this heartbeat, my daughter, is not appropriate. This heartbeat shall bring a new and divine life, bilocated from this heartbeat, to be enjoyed by those who shall have the fortune of possessing this kingdom. Don't you know that in order to be able to say that a kingdom exists, first it is necessary to form it, and then say it exists? Therefore, it is necessary to form the paths, the security doors, the keys of gold, not forged with some other metal, in order to make the entrance into the kingdom of my will easy. One path less, one key that is missing, one door that is locked, can render the entrance into it more difficult and less smooth. Therefore, everything I say to you serves not only to form this kingdom, but also to make it easier for those who shall want to possess it. So the firstborn daughter of my will must have the care of rendering what regards the kingdom of the eternal Fiat easier. Then I was continuing my acts in the supreme volition, and finding myself outside of myself, I was praying my round around the whole creation to follow the divine will in each created thing. But while I was doing this, the veil of each created thing was torn, and I could see the holy will dwelling in them, doing each act that each created thing contains, always operating without ever stopping. And my sweet Jesus, coming out from within my interior, told me, "My daughter, look at the exuberant love of my will, always stable, always operating, always in the act of giving, without ever drawing back from what it established to do when the supreme Fiat echoed in the creation." My will took on the commitment to perform all arts, to carry out all offices, to execute all servitudes, to take on any shape in order to render man happy. Even more, it acted as more than a most tender mother, disposing all created things, almost like many breasts, within which it hid, to let itself be suckled by man. So it made itself sun, to let him suckle its light. It made itself heaven, to let him suckle the vital love of immutability. It made itself stars, to let him suckle the variety of goods that its work contain. It made itself water, plants, and flowers, to let him suckle the water of grace, quenching his thirst, and to let him suckle its sweetness and its chaste fragrances. My will took on all shapes, of bird, of lamb, of dove, in sum of everything, in order to reach the mouth of man and let itself be suckled by him, to give him the good that each created thing contained. Only a divine will, that created everything in an outpouring of its love, could take on so many shapes, perform so many offices, be so persistent, without ever ceasing to do its acts. Yet, who tries to penetrate into each created thing, to see who is she who offers her breast to him, in order to give her milk, to breastfeed the creatures, to amuse them, and to make them happy. There is a footnote referring to the word she, meaning the divine will, now referred to as mother. See also Volume 18, January 24th, 1926. beginning again at the paragraph. Only a divine will that created everything in an outpouring of its love could take on so many shapes, perform so many offices, be so persistent without ever ceasing to do its acts. Yet, who tries to penetrate into each created thing, to see who is she who offers her breast to him, in order to give her milk, to breastfeed the creatures, to amuse them and to make them happy? Almost no one. My will pours her very self out continuously. She gives her life in each created thing in order to give life. And they do not deign even to look at her, to see who is she who loves them so much and is life of their life. So the sorrow of my will is great, because of so many denials from creatures. Therefore, with divine and invincible patience, she is waiting for her children, who by knowing her may tear the veil from created things that hide her, may recognize the breast of their mamma, and grateful may suckle from those divine breasts as her true children. And so, the glory of all creation, of all redemption, of your Jesus, and of the eternal Fiat, shall then be complete, when the children of her kingdom shall attach themselves to her breast, to suckle from her breasts, recognizing her. They shall not detach from her breast, and she shall give them all goods, and shall have the glory, the contentment, to see all of her children happy. And these children shall have the honor, the glory, to copy within themselves the mother who with so much love keeps them on her lap to nourish them with her divine milk. Now, my will finds itself in the conditions of the sun when the clouds prevent the fullness of its light from investing the earth with all its vividness. So because of the clouds, the sun cannot display all the light it contains, as if the clouds were hindering the glory of the sun, of giving course to its light, always the same, always fixed, as indeed it gives it. In the same way, the clouds of the human will hinder all the course which the sun of my will would want to do toward them. And because it cannot communicate all the goods it contains, either through creation or directly, its glory is intercepted by the clouds of the human will. But when they shall know the supreme Fiat, and shall give themselves as its children, these clouds shall be removed, and my will shall be able to give the goods it possesses. Then shall our glory be complete in the midst of creatures. February 6, 1927. Wherever the divine will is present, there is everything. Nothing can escape it. How the one who possesses it lives in the communion of goods of her Creator. Love and happiness she receives. Love and happiness she gives. I was all immersed in the supreme volition, following its acts, in order to constitute myself act of each creature. And my sweet Jesus came out from within my interior, and stretching out his arms to me, he embraced me tightly, clasping me all to himself. Now, while Jesus was embracing me, all created things, the heavens, the sun, the sea, all of them, even the tiny little bird, placing themselves around Jesus, they all embraced me, wanting to repeat his act. They were as though competing among themselves. None of them wanted to be left behind. I remained confounded in seeing that the whole creation was running toward me to embrace me. And Jesus told me, "My daughter, when the soul lives in my will, and I do one act toward her, even a simple kiss, one little word, all creation, beginning with the sovereign queen, even to the least of the littlest being, they all put themselves in motion to repeat my act. In fact, since one is the will of the soul, mine, and their own, all have the right to associate themselves with me, to do the same thing I do. Therefore, it was not me alone, but all beings in which my will exists as whole were together with me in embracing you. So whenever I do one more act with the one who lives in my will, I give a new feast to the whole creation. And whenever there is a new feast, all move and stand at attention. When I am about to give you a gift or tell you a word, so as to concur together with me, repeat my act, receive the new feast, and make for you the feast of their acts. Was it not a feast for you to feel the embrace of the celestial Mamma, the embrace of the light of the sun, of the waves of the sea, and even of the tiny little bird that stretched out its wings to embrace you? My daughter, wherever my will is present, there is everything. Not one thing can escape it. Then I continue to follow its acts in the supreme volition, and my sweet Jesus added, "My daughter, for the one who possesses my will, it is as if she had the sun centered within herself, but not the sun that can be seen up there in the heavens. Rather, the divine sun, that very sun that is centered in God. Extending its rays, it centers itself in the soul, and so she is the owner of the light, because she possesses within herself the life of the light, and all the goods and effects that it contains. Therefore, she enjoys the communion of goods of her Creator. Everything is in common with the one who possesses my will. Common is the love. Common is the sanctity. Common is the light. Everything is in common with her. even more, since her Creator looks at her as a birth from his divine will. She is already his daughter, so he enjoys, loves, and wants that his goods be in common with her. And if this could not be, he would suffer as a father would suffer, who, being immensely rich, finds himself in the impossibility of giving his goods to his true and faithful children, and so, unable to give what he possesses, he is forced to see them poor. This father, in the midst of the opulence of his riches, would die of sorrow, poisoned in his own bitternesses, because the joy of a father is to give, and to make his children happy of his own happiness. If a terrestrial father, who were unable to place his goods in common with his children, can suffer so much, to the point of dying of sorrow, much more would the eternal Creator suffer, more than most tender father, if he could not place his goods in common with the one who possesses the divine Fiat, who, being his daughter, has her rights to possess the communion of goods of her father. And if it were not so, it would clash with that love that knows no limits, and with that goodness, more than paternal, that is the continuous triumph of all our works. Therefore, as the soul comes to possess the supreme Fiat, the first act of God is to place his goods in common with her, and centering his Son in her through the current of its light, he makes his goods descend into the depth of the soul, and she takes whatever she wants. And through that same current of the light that she possesses, she makes them ascend again to her Creator, as the greatest homage of love and of gratitude. And that same current makes them descend into her once again. So, these goods ascend and descend continuously, as the certainty and the seal of the communion that exists between Creator and creature. Such was the state of Adam when he was created, until he sinned. What was ours was his. The fullness of light, centered in him, because his will was one with ours, brought him the communion of our goods. How we felt our happiness redoubled on the part of creation, for nothing else but because we saw Adam, our son, happy of our own happiness. In fact, since his will was one with ours, our will could pour our goods and our happiness in torrents upon him, so much so that, unable to contain it all, because he did not have the capacity of his Creator, while being filled to the brim, to the point of overflowing, he would make all the rest ascend again to him from whom he had received it. And what did he make ascend? His perfect love that he had received from God, his sanctity, his glory, that he possessed in common with us, to give us as though tit for tat, of happiness, of love, of glory. Happiness we gave. Happiness he gave to us. Love, sanctity, and glory we gave him. Love, sanctity, and glory he gave to us. My daughter, to possess a divine will is something astounding. The human nature cannot comprehend everything. It feels, it possesses, and knows not how to express. You have reached the end of the Book of Heaven, Volume 20, Part 20. Fiat.